Hey guys, what is going on? This is Pantsar Dragon, and today we'll be doing a little video on dynamic queue and solo queue never coming back, as stated officially by Riot themselves, and they even say that they're not bringing back solo queue. I mean, it's no surprise to be honest, since, they've been beating around this subject for the past few months, and it was kind of obvious that solo queue would probably never happen, judging by how much times they've delayed it and their replies. Now, obviously, I do not agree with what they're going to be doing, as I'd much rather prefer solo queue than dynamic queue for many reasons. But anyways, with all that being said, let's get started. Now in this video, I'm going to bring up many points from both perspectives, and I know I've talked about this subject before, but I definitely think it's an issue that should be brought up when the times are right. Alright, so it's pretty clear that most of the community does not want dynamic queue. Like, look at the video made by Riot talking about dynamic queue. You can see that the like and dislike ratio is really high for the dislikes. So yeah, if that's not an indicator of people wanting solo queue than dynamic queue, then I don't know what is. Alright, so I actually redid this video, or as a whole script you would call it. I don't really use a script, but previously my script was more biased on solo queue than anything, but it didn't really have a point to it, so now I'm going to be giving my opinion on how I feel about what they're doing with dynamic queue now. Alright, so right here they state that they see a problem where if you pick support as your second role, you're most likely to get it than your actual primary role. Now this is a good thing, they're trying to improve this because I've been playing more support than I have been jungle, and my jungle skill has deteriorated since then, and I actually suck at the jungle at the moment because I've been picking so much jungle and fill, aka support. So now I was basically a support main, but maybe with these changes I'll be back to a jungle main. And you can see that they're definitely trying to make dynamic queue into the perfect queue, so everyone's going to be kind of happy. Next up, they state that pre-mades, they want to have equal skill with pre-mades versus like solo queue players or groups of 2s and 3s, which is good for lower elo, but you'll see it doesn't really affect me at all in higher elo, because you'll see later in this post that they're taking away the ability to queue up as a 4 or 5 man pre-made in higher elo. Now before we move on to the next segment, let's go back to this one. So I'll be honest here, I don't really care about this part because it doesn't affect me since I'm in the higher elo. But to be honest, if I were lower elo and I see this graph where it says there's a 50% chance I can win against 5 man pre-mades and I'm a solo queue player, and that the statistic they show me is not bullshit, then I will be a happy player. But also, if I was in the 5 man pre-made and me and my friends lost to a bunch of solo queue noobs, I'd be pretty pissed because we probably should have won, since we do have voice communications. But in lower elo, it's probably easier to find another 5 man pre-made to face. Alright, so back to this post. So one thing they state in this post is they say they're currently considering enabling 5s for diamonds and above during specific peak hours. Ooh, fuck you, don't do that. I mean, it does suck for the people who can't queue as 5s and they're all diamond or whatever, but to be honest, people in Master and Challenger, there's not a lot of pre-mades going on. Maybe like 2s or 3s, but I actually see a lot of people solo queuing their games, so I don't think the ability to have a 5 man pre-made is going to be missed in higher elo. And to be honest, no one really likes that shit, but it does suck for a group of 5 diamond friends who want to play some solo queue together or have a challenge together. But I think that's a very small minority and no one will really care. Now, it's actually funny, in this video, they're actually solving a lot of problems I have as a high elo player, and a lot of problems stated in my last video, this video, are actually being somewhat solved. I swear to God, they actually looked at this video and was like, that makes sense, but it was probably the same thoughts as other pro players and other challengers, since we all want the same thing. So in this post, they're addressing high MMR queue times, which is one of the problems I addressed in my RIP solo queue video, and it seems that they're definitely going to try and tackle this issue. And what they say they're going to do is they're going to add an autofill mode that can trigger when queue times are too long, which is pretty interesting, and I kind of do like it because I'm a filler and I don't really care, but it seems like people who queue a little bit later than other people who are already queuing have a little role advantage. That's the only issue I have, and it doesn't seem too fair for some people, but I guess it'll have to do. I mean, I'd prefer people going into queue, and when they get in champ select, they call the roles and people pick from there. I definitely do prefer pick order than dynamic queue, but if this autofill system does come in for higher MMR players, I have one suggestion to make, and that is to let the higher MMR players have a lot more priority to get their primary role than other players. And hopefully the estimated time you have to wait until the autofill triggers is around 3 minutes. But yeah, I'd really enjoy the idea of having a better jungler in the jungle position than myself. But if I queue up for jungle and support, and there's someone who queues up for jungle and mid, and he gets a jungle and he's like, what, 100 master LP? Fuck that. My team would have a higher chance of winning if I were in the jungle and he was playing support, since support is a relatively easy role to play. I mean, To be honest, would you rather have, let's say you're a gold 1 jungler, and then you have a plat 3 jungler in your game, wouldn't you rather have him being jungle? Probably, unless you're playing a normal and you want to try out something in the jungle, but we're talking about ranked here. Anyways, that's basically what the article says. In my opinion, I feel like I'm going to be happy. As long as Q times are lower, other people also have to fill, and I don't have to face 5-man premades anymore, then I guess I'm going to be happy. The only thing I would definitely prefer is pick order over dynamic queue, but you have to remember I'm pretty biased because I am a filler. You guys watching this video probably only main like 2 roles in solo queue. I actually main jungle and support, but I actually do like playing other roles sometimes, you know, if my team needs it. But yeah, if all these changes go through and I'm satisfied, yeah, I'll probably be happy. But you know, right now, I definitely do not like playing support when I'm a jungle main for half of my games in ranked. But yeah, that's about it. I definitely would prefer solo queue, but this will have to do. Also, one thing I want to address before I end this video is the reason a lot of people are just complaining about dynamic queue is because most of the pros are complaining, and those are the people who people look up to. So obviously their opinion influences them, and maybe when the pros say, yeah, dynamic queue is fine, I think everything will turn to normal, and people will be like, okay, whatever. But that's my opinion. Maybe the damage is already done, and people are just like, fuck you, Riot, suck my dick. But I mean, if you guys are still mad about solo queue, I can see why, because most of these things are only applying to high diamond and above. But I did state this in my RIP solo queue video, that diamond and above should be the super competitive level, while platinum and below, since there's such a large amount of people playing in platinum and below, a lot of the problems in high MMR, and I talked about in this video, aren't really seen too much in lower elo, and so that's going to be my personal opinion, although they probably should have had this fixed before making dynamic queue and releasing it. But I guess you gotta experiment with your customers. Also, I'm going to state this, a lot of the veteran players of League of Legends, they care a lot about solo queue because that's what they're used to. I mean, I'd prefer solo queue to be honest, but at least some of the issues I have with dynamic queue are being changed. But new players who come to League, they won't really mind because they really haven't experienced solo queue. I mean, when Overwatch rank comes out, and they have dynamic queue, which I think they will, you guys probably won't care. Because right now people are casually having fun with it. And they also really didn't have solo queue to begin with in Overwatch, so no one's really going to care about the subject. But yeah, either way, I feel like Riot is getting a lot of shit for it, but they are trying to fix some issues, and people just have a mob mentality and not really listening to anything they have to say. So I'm going to end this video, and I want you guys to comment below, do you prefer solo queue or do you prefer dynamic queue? I prefer solo queue, but I feel like lower elo, they don't really have as much issues as higher elo. Like say you queue up as a 4-man group or 5-man, you're most likely to find another 4-man or 5-man, while on higher elo, that's really unlikely to find. And you're also most likely to get your role because there's such a big amount of players playing in other roles. So I definitely will say that I do think it's fine for lower elo, but in a community where there's not a lot of players, I feel like all these fixes will definitely help with their issues with dynamic queue. And again, if your favorite league stars or whatever are not bitching about dynamic queue anymore, you're probably not going to see the mob mentality anymore. But don't worry, if my issues aren't fixed, well, I'll be joining the mob mentality as well. Anyways, thank you guys for watching this video. If you guys did like this video, make sure to leave a like, and if you didn't, make sure to subscribe. Anyways, I am Panzer Dragon, and I'll see you guys next time.